Once a Giant, always a Giant. For me, it's only a Giant.
What's going on YouTube, D546, and we're back from the dumpster fire. And I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about this because this has been a back and forth topic over the last couple of months. Probably 2 months has kind of been back and forth. And right now we're seeing that Deion Sanders is being talked to. It seemed like from his end, he's either trying to negotiate to get more money from the Cowboys, but it seems like on his end, he's not really wanting to come to the NFL to coach football. But it seems like Jerry Jones is heavily pursuing Deion Sanders to be the next head coach. I'm also seeing things that he's heavily pursuing a couple of other people to come to the Dallas Cowboys. So we don't know what's real. But you have to think that if the Cowboys are going to be bringing in Deion Sanders, they're probably going to be bringing in Shedeur Sanders. You think? I mean, the Giants may be taking Shedeur Sanders, and I don't think his dad want to play against him. I think part of bringing Deion Sanders to the Cowboys will be drafting Shedeur Sanders at the top of the draft. And what does that look like? That's trading Dak Prescott to the Tennessee Titans. Trading Dak Prescott to the Tennessee Titans and bringing him to the Dallas Cowboys. And when I say him, I mean Shedeur Sanders. And then, of course, in the 5th round, taking Shiloh Sanders, or in the 4th round, wherever they want to take Shiloh Sanders. I don't necessarily think he's a player that should be taken, on day 2 or even early day 3. But Shiloh Sanders will probably be part of that deal too. So if that happens, the Giants aren't getting a quarterback this year as far as the draft goes. They're just not getting that guy as far as the top 2. Now, if that doesn't happen, I'm willing to put all my money on the table that if Shedeur Sanders doesn't go number 1 to the Titans, he will be a New York Football Giant. I'm willing to put all my money on the table because Shedeur Sanders has been trying to play it cool, but his dad has pretty much been clear here that his son is not going to play for teams that he thinks are poorly run, which is funny because the Giants are clearly poorly run, but I guess he sees us as a little bit more in high regard than other teams because we have those 2 Super Bowls, because Eli Manning, because of all those things that he respects about the Giants. But other than that, the Cleveland Browns are picking number 2. The Cleveland Browns are there. So he's been seen multiple times basically bashing the Browns as an organization, saying, they've done good things, but there's no way that I would want to play there. And I doubt he's going to let Shedeur Sanders play there. So I think at this point, Shedeur Sanders is probably going to be in a situation similar to Eli Manning, which would be funny if this happened this way, because first we get Daniel Jones, who reminds us of Eli Manning, and then we get another quarterback that gets to us the same way that Eli did, except this time we'd only have to move up 1 pick. I think that basically the Cleveland Browns would say, hey, we're calling the Raiders, we're calling the Giants, and whoever can give us the most is going to be taking Shedeur Sanders. Now, the Browns may want to take a guy like Travis Hunter. They may want to take a guy like Abdul Carter. And it's not a guarantee that either one of those guys will be there at 7. So the Giants are going to have to offer much less than whatever team that will want to trade up, whether it be the Jets, whether it be the Raiders. They're going to offer much less and be able to make that trade happen and still get things done. So I can see the Browns trading back 1 pick for us to take Shedeur Sanders and them getting next year's 2nd round pick, or this year's 2nd round pick and next year's 3rd round pick, and them going ahead and taking that pick. Now, unless the Raiders are willing to give up multiple 1st round picks, which I just don't see happening, and they don't even have a GM in place. They don't have a coach in place. They don't have a GM in place. So there's no way that we don't even know what their opinion of these quarterbacks are. But I can very well see the New York Giants trading up that 1 pick to grab Shedeur Sanders. And again, if Shedeur isn't a Cowboy because of, the crazy NFL where Jerry Jones is just trying to sell tickets and he's going to bring Deion Sanders in and bring his sons in, if that doesn't happen, I'm willing to put my money on the table and say that Shedeur Sanders will be a New York Giant. And you also have to remember, even if we're not trading a next year's 2 and a next year's 3, or this year's 3 and this year's 2, even if we're not doing that, you got to remember that Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, their backs are against the wall. And there's 2 things you can do in that situation. One is, there's 3 things. One is you go crazy in free agency You bring in all of the vets that you can. You try to have a great draft, and you miss out on the quarterback, but you just do everything else you can do. The second option is you draft a rookie quarterback and you make sure that you get a rookie quarterback that was in the first round that you can say he got better as the year went along, and because of that, we deserve to be back. The third option is the least likely option, which is we're going to just do what we would do if we knew our job would be here 5 years down the road. Now, Joe Schoen said that's what he would do, but do you really think that it makes sense for Joe Schoen to just play this as if he's going to be here in 5 years when he's not sure? Wouldn't he want to get a rookie quarterback, bring in a bunch of free agents, try to win a bunch of games? Because if your rookie quarterback comes out there and say we bring in, a ridiculous amount of free agents and we patch things up for a year and we win 11 games. If he does that as a rookie quarterback, the Giants are all of a sudden seen as a good front office, a good coaching staff again. And next year, if we get 6 wins, they'll get another year. So it makes perfect sense for them to try to improve this team as much as they can in one offseason. I don't think it's the best, but I can very well see them moving heaven and earth to get a guy like Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward in here. Cam Ward is the most likely of the two quarterbacks to play for any team that drafts him. And I just think that the league is starting to shift more towards Cam Ward because of the tools he has, because he can sidearm, because he can flick it. He can flick it 50 yards. He can pretty much, he has all the arm talent things that you kind of look for. So I could see Cam Ward going number 1 to the Titans. The Browns are on the clock. Deion Sanders says, listen, we already talked. My son's not playing for you. And the Browns saying, listen, Raiders, Giants, you're on the clock. Whichever one of you is going to give us the most, I was going to say money. Whichever one of you is going to give us the most compensation is where we're moving to. Again, the Giants will only have to move up 1 pick versus the 7th pick. So the Raiders would have to give a next year's 1, another 1, a 2. They would have to give up a bunch of picks, whereas the Giants would only have to move up 1 spot. And you can still trade back to that 3 spot. And you can take up, you have basically the entire board is open. So for now, Shedeur Sanders is still my number 1 quarterback. I still think that he's got the quarterbacking part down. And I think the 49ers GM kind of said that of like Brock Purdy is the best quarterback. He was the best in the draft at quarterbacking. And I think people kind of forget about that. Like they see all the flashy stuff like Zach Wilson and Trey Lance. For every Patrick Mahomes, there's a Zach Wilson, there's a Trey Lance, there's another freak show quarterback that just doesn't pan out. And I really see Shedeur Sanders as the best in this draft at quarterbacking, at being on time, at accuracy, at placement. I see him as the best in this draft, and that for now. Now, Cam Ward isn't too far behind him, and you could say that he has that higher ceiling. Both of them, I think, have that clutch gene. But like I said, for me, it's just a razor thin edge, but I don't think we're going to have a shot at Cam Ward anyway. So I'm going to continue with Shedeur as my number 1 quarterback until we get some more of this tape. A ton of new film just dropped. I'm excited to take a look at that bowl game that Shedeur played in to see what happened and why he didn't play well. So stay tuned for that. And more film sessions, more content for the draft is coming soon. Of course, we'll touch on free agency as that starts to happen. But you all let me know, are you ready for Shedeur Sanders to be our next quarterback? Because right now I will put about 80% that Shedeur Sanders is going to be our quarterback going into this next season.